Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us to the Amityville School Board Policy Committee. Be starting a meeting at 6:05 p.m. In attendance is myself, Chris Nearing, Superintendent Dr. Talbert, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction, Mary Stevens, as Interim Superintendent of Business and Operations, and Richard Snyder. And Anne Marie, our district clerk, is in attendance as well. Okay. Dr. Talbert, take us over.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we were looking at the financials in terms of the 6,000 series for policy review. And I know that Rich Snyder has been spending some time along with council consulting on an update for the following: 6,000, 6240, 6,700, 6741, 6110, 6120, and 6150. If we can have an update as to where we are with those policy changes at this time.
Great. So policy 6,000 fiscal management goals, which you see is acceptable as written, definitely has been reviewed by council. It's pretty generic guidance in terms of, the administration's obligations for fiscal management and some of the things it's talking about, are pretty boilerplate language.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was kind of assumed this was covered under number 9, but it just was thinking if we should add shall meet the needs of extra and co-curricular activities. And then should provide resources to maintain and or upgrade facilities and assets.
Do you want to say that again, sir?
Provide resources to maintain and or upgrade facilities and assets. Unless you feel like that is kind of captured under number 9 already, and just.
To assess the effectiveness of all educational programs. Speaking about programs, number 7, a formal process shall be developed linking fiscal resources and program priorities to the budget. Do you think that would encompass it?
Program, like, would the extra curricular activities be like considered a program?
I would think so.
Okay.
I would think that would be covered. And then number 6 says all funds, including cash. Well, that's just talking about the protection for misappropriation. Snyder, as it pertains to upgrade of facilities.
I don't think it's. I think it's okay to mention here. I'm sure it's mentioned in the fixed asset sections also, so I don't see any harm in, adding a statement here that resources to upgrade and maintain facilities be added here.
Yeah, if you want to manage the district fiscally, so you're able to do that.
So you see the extra classroom is sort of referenced in number 6, but no specific reference to fixed assets, so I don't see the harm and,
Yeah, I mean that. Number 6 is referring to their account funds, not the programs running themselves.
As a result of.
Yeah.
Snyder, could you say that language one more time for Ms. Henry?
Well, it was the language I actually got from Mr. Naring about provide resources to upgrade and maintain facilities, fixed assets.
Provide resources to maintain
And upgrade.
and upgrade
Facilities and fixed assets.
facilities and fixed assets. And that's to be added to number 9.
We can make it.
Make
so-
it 10,
Yeah, make it 10.
make it 10.
Yeah, I see it as a separate.
Okay, number 10. To provide, provide resources to maintain and upgrade facilities and fixed asset.
That's all I got for that.
Okay. 6240,
Oh, I think that was garbage, and I put it right over there.
Okay, no, that's mine. I was here, thank you.
Sorry. 6240, the comment on this one is sort of a clarification about what the specific names or titles have to be referenced. So legal went back and looked at it. The only criteria is that titles be added, so here in accordance with the policy, the treasurer is really the only one who has custody of those assets. So it's not really the what they call the chief fiscal officer, it's really the assistant superintendent for business. So I think that this should read that the district treasurer is authorized to invest. Because that is a custody position.
So chief fiscal officer or other officer would not be included?
I don't have that kind of access, and I don't think it's appropriate under an internal control. Sort of scenario for the assistant superintendent that I can see everything.
Yeah.
But I physically cannot move cash, only the treasurer does that.
Okay,
so third line down, in accordance with this policy, the district treasurer
Yes,
having custody of the money
yep,
is authorized.
that's what it should say.
Okay. Got that, Anne Marie?
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
And down below it in red is language that the board can choose, or the policy committee can choose to add, where it says investments may be made either directly from authorized trading partners, participation cooperatives. I see no harm in adding this language. We don't do it presently. We don't have cooperatives or trading partners. It's all money market, basic banking accounts, but it doesn't hurt to have it.
is that something we would be looking to do going forward? Or-
I mean, there could come a time in the future where investment cooperatives, like the one that was debated in public session in New York class, might have a more advantageous interest rate. You know, right now, it doesn't. We're getting the best rates out of our money market accounts. You know, and if we decided to go that route and use a cooperative, it would have to be board approved, so you'd have a second level of authority to sort of reinforce this area of policy. So I don't see the harm in keeping it, but just to be clear, we're not using cooperatives or trading partners at this time, and I don't know if we've ever have here in Amityville.
What would the negative be to using those? If any?
I mean, there was some debate over FDIC, which back at that public meeting, which I didn't see as relevant. All of these assets are collateralized 102% in case they fail, so there is effectively like an insurance policy on it. But like I said, the rates for New York class are very competitive with what we're getting with Astoria and M&T, so we haven't had the need to use it. So even if you decide to strike it just to end the conversation, it's fine with us.
Okay, but if we left it. This would go to board approval anytime we would be doing any investment like that, so it could be in the policy, but we would still have the opportunity to.
Yeah, anytime we want to add another bank or institution for investment, it has to appear as a designee on the reorg meeting or a separate resolution where it would be clear to you that we're adding another depository.
Okay. Alright, so I'd say we'll leave it in for discussion with the rest of the board.
6,700. Similar type of debate here where. You know, the auditors are recommending that the name be added here. Not entirely sure why this is different, that it says the district may need to specifically identify the purchasing agent, in this case, it's me. The debate we had was why is it different with the treasurer, why was that title, and it's because the lawyer said this is a little different, so here you're adding my name as purchasing agent.
So we would just have to,
every
I
year.
guess, yeah, every year. Make sure that this is getting updated.
Yes,
And this is an annual review. This one does.
this one is
require-
required, yeah, as an annual review.
So we did adopt it, I believe, the July 8th reorg meeting. And so we will be readopting.
So should there be a mid-year change in, for whatever reason, in the purchasing agent? Or would have to update the policy at that point?
Yes.
Yeah, so would. Do you guys have a mechanism in place to red flag these types of things when there is change in the central office? Cause I'm sure this isn't the only point where we would have to
Make the
make these
adjustment,
kind of adjustments.
yeah. I think anything on the reorg agenda. Where there's a mid-year change or any change, then we would need to bring it back. So that would be our guide.
To review the, okay,
Dr. Talbot flagged that after my appointment to make sure that I was appointed to 2 roles at the last board meeting, so
Yeah.
she's on top of it.
okay, thank you.
The next comment, which is SJ3, say purchases of the same commodity cannot be artificially divided. It's restating a really heavily audited thing where the auditors will always look at this, so I think it's good to include this language and just know that. You know, if somebody tried to get around a purchasing law by dividing up a commodity into separate purchases, they look at an entire year of purchases and add them up in total. So there's a couple of layers of protection here, and I think this language should be included.
Okay,
Down below on number 6, I think we spoke about the green New York. It, you know, definitely through experience, it is expensive, but I would defer to the committee in terms of whether or not, you know, buying green type of products is something that you want, purchasing to be geared towards. And I know that there was some discussion about that previously. Typically, any kind of greening, cleaning products are typically more expensive. So I would defer to the committee on this language.
I would say, I mean, it already says when feasible, so that leaves room for adjustment. But I would think to leave it in there is to keep it on the radar. You know, I obviously do wanna be economically friendly when possible.
Okay.
Okay.
Should anyone from the public raise a question about what green purchasing is? There's a whole list of things that are literally a body of work that are accessible on a website that we can at least have the website ready to go should someone comment.
Mhm.
Okay. So the next time is really dealing with businesses that are within the boundaries of Amityville and, you know, giving them sort of responsible suppliers whose place of business is situated within the district. I've seen this throughout my career where, you know, the school district wants to give businesses within the school district, you know, preferential treatment when all other things are equal. And sometimes maybe even not, so. You know, the language here sort of loosens it up where we're saying remove the sentence entirely or add and other factors. And leave a little bit of judgment in there to say, well, if the price is so exorbitant in the judgment of the purchasing agent, which would be me, then I would go outside of a vendor located within the district. But if it was close enough, immaterial is the word, you know, we want to give the business to an Amityville business with that zip code, and I've had that kind of leniency before where if the price was close, and just to be clear, it's kind of within our judgment, then we would use the Amityville business.
Yeah, well, I would agree, keeping the money locally,
Yeah,
keep it circulating around here.
it is a old tried and true way of keeping the money circulated in the community, and I agree with it. There would just be a point where if it got too expensive, maybe I would talk to Dr. Talbot or put it in a transmittal. And just make it be known, you know, that we went outside of an Amityville business and we had an opportunity, it was strictly because of price, but we can also give that business a chance to match price, and sometimes that actually works out.
Okay,
So and then other factors would be left in there to sort of, again, defer to our judgment that, well, maybe the warranty is better. Maybe the product itself is a little better quality, so again, you're gonna rely on our judgment here.
So we're not gonna keep in adding as an option, adding warranty and delivery. I know this is gonna go with the full board, you should I leave that in there?
as an option for the rest of the board to
Right.
weigh in on? Yeah, I'd say leave it in,
Just leave,
Especially considering two of the community members are not here.
So then down at the bottom of page 2, there was a debate at the last policy meeting about volatile organic compounds. There was no federal regulation on VOCs. The recommendation is to simply follow the label. The EPA manages safe choice programs, which sort of kind of handle this sort of thing. So I think the recommendation is to leave it as is.
And if you refer back to the green purchasing has a section on low VOCs.
Okay, so if we're following green purchasing, then we would also be following the low VOCs, is that what you're saying?
I believe so.
Okay,
And if you'd like me to find a specific reference to it in both in the green purchasing and the low VOCs, I'll have that prepared. Because I remember looking it up when the question was raised, I said, oh, that's interesting, and I found it in the low VOC in the green.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if there's a way we can include that wording, just trustee Messman, that's her career field, so she knows VOCs much more better than I do. So if there's a way we can incorporate that.
It's in there, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's in there. Environmentally sensitive green cleaning products. And the district will purchase and utilize environmentally sensitive cleaning, maintenance products in its facilities whenever feasible.
If I can point out to the trustee, where it says that in the green purchasing, that may be helpful.
Okay. Well, thank you.
So on page 3, section D, there's optional language there that I think is helpful in the event that there are federal reimbursements referred to as E-rate, where we get money back on that we can steer purchases in that direction for purposes of getting reimbursement. I think that this is good language to include. And would recommend that you keep that language there. It's kind of restating the law anyway, so it doesn't really hurt to keep it there. And then below that in yellow, there was, debate about the word may. The language comes directly from the NISBA policy sample. So I think the recommendation from council is to leave it as is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of falls under the same as purchasing locally and within the district.
Yeah,
Give you, it's ideal, but not restricting you to
I'm
it.
not sure with salt, really clear how they get it, but if it's American made and it's the same price and quality, we would go that route anyway.
Okay.
Now I'm on page 4, electronic format is not required, it's up to the board. A policy committee to see if you want sealed bids transmitted electronically.
So right now, we only take paper copies.
I haven't been involved in one except RFPs, which are somewhat different. Typically, when we're bidding something, it's handled by the architects because it's mostly construction related, and those come to the architects in actual hard copy. I'm not aware if they transmit them electronically, so I'm unsure how to advise you here.
Is there any reason that we shouldn't do electronic format?
No. No, there's no reason to say. Shall also require electronic. I don't see the harm in that and let them do it both ways.
Yeah, I mean, the less paper, the better.
Agreed. Agreed.
Okay. Yeah, so I'd like to leave it in there.
So then down below, there was some, consideration about the $5,000. We think that that's reasonable in terms of saying a small procurement, 5,000.
Okay.
And then I think the suggested wording there is acceptable. And then professional services requiring special skill. You may want to require a dollar amount, but it's hard to pinpoint. you know, maybe a professional service, especially, it could be relatively small, but for accounting, it can be large, you know, so.
Too big of a
I
range.
kind of, yeah, too big, so I kind of think you just leave it open for the district to decide. And then there's some slight revision of the language there, but the rest of this is acceptable, it's written.
Okay.
Number 7 was removed. We gave, and piggybacking, which is an important purchasing concept, got its own paragraph. Piggybacking is when maybe another school district writes a bid and allows us to utilize their bid. It's an efficiency measure where we kind of like the opportunity to piggyback. Down below, the policy committee want to expand the sentence by adding direct or indirect, material or immaterial before interest, so that was placed there. And that kind of matches those related party questionnaires that trustees get during audits.
Okay.
And then the rest of that section is acceptable as written. So, but again, on comment A and 20. Where we want to add direct or indirect, material or immaterial before the word interest, so we're going to insert that language.
Okay.
So we're gonna add it in. When it goes to the.
Yes,
Yeah,
Yes,
and again, that matches what the external auditors send you every year in the mail. You get that sheet of paper, it matches that language.
okay.
Then the rest of this is acceptable as well.
I'm sorry, did we also say and or material or immaterial?
Yes.
But both direct and indirect and.
Material. So we're on 6741. You can see number 4, the sentence is not required as per statute for professional services. You know, I will tell you, it's pretty expensive to advertise RFPs in the newspaper. You know, so there's a cost issue there to that. Unlike bids that have to be advertised, RFPs for professional services do not. It's basically, I think like accounting services, we're sending them to all CPA firms that we're aware of, so, you know, there's kind of a marketing issue there, but publishing in the newspaper an RFP, given the size of it, is pretty expensive.
Can you just add the word may publish in district approved newspapers? So that way it's an option, we're not taking it away.
Yes.
So may publish.
Yes.
So that's my place, so. The rest in blue. Is legal recommendations where they're making some suggestions about adding language to number 7. And then in yellow, it says the policy committee, we want to know if this can be worded so that we do not limit the responses, and I know that there was some. You know, talk about that. You may want to set criteria for a professional service to say. Must have X amount of years of experience. You may want to do that for lawyers. Accountants have specific experience working with school districts or local governments. By not limiting it, I mean, you're gonna get maybe flooded with responses that you're gonna say, well, we can't, we don't want to use this firm. I understand the intent is to try and create the largest market as possible, but there are situations where you're gonna want to have a law firm with X amount of experience or X amount of clients servicing public schools, and this language would preclude you from putting that language in the RFP. You would have to basically take any law firm that walks in.
Yeah.
So there's some judgment there that I know we were trying to sort of limit and get as much as possible, but there's a downside to that, is my point.
Yeah, which that was one of my concerns, but I know there was a lot of back and forth the last meeting about this, so I think we should. Leave this in for the rest of the board to discuss.
Okay.
I think the other comment in my yellow, I don't think you addressed yet. After the blue, it says Shannon's best, is it best to add this as number 5, or as a separate paragraph, we verify that all legally required professional and applicable professional credentials or current and will not expire during the term of the contract.
Oh, yes, I would say that to make that numbers. Oh, she was saying to put it down on that next list as number 7.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I glanced over that.
My feeling is that it could expire during the term, that doesn't mean that the person's not going to reapply.
And what's the verbiage?
We verify that all legally required professional and applicable professional credentials are current and will not expire during the term of the contract. I don't know if you want to restrict it to that. Or that the professional agrees to keep current even if it expires during the contract. That they're gonna renew.
Oh, so this would say, all right, if it expires. No matter what, you can't get the contract, but we take that out, then it gives them the opportunity to renew it.
Right.
Yeah, I would say. Remove that will not expire during the term of the contract.
Or current.
So it will remain current and will remain, right,
Let's do
let's,
And maybe, and will be kept current during the
yeah.
time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And by the way, if I'm speaking too much at a policy committee, please let me know.
Appreciate your contributions.
I'm the new guy, so I don't want to be overstepping, so please advise me if I am.
That's okay, so where are we now?
I'm on top of page 2, if that's okay with everybody else. 6741. We're gonna say all RFP shall be published to district approved newspapers, so. Following what we discussed before, maybe we should say May, and then we'll
Yeah,
kick this around again.
Yeah.
And then policy committee suggested adding the RFP and before the written proposal. Honestly, I wasn't clear on what everyone was referring to there.
I think they're referring to the responses. So the RFP and the responses,
Shall be maintained for 6 years. I think the language is clear. That that's what that's saying, but the comment on AM8 is the policy committee suggested to add the RFP. And before,
Was and not included in that? Is that what was added?
yeah, I'm not
The
sure
word
on
and?
that one scenario, we weren't clear on what that was driving.
I think the existing was the written proposal submitted shall be maintained. And this is saying the RFP, in other words, the document to which they responded and the written proposal shall be maintained. So you keep not just the proposals, but what they proposed, responded to, I think is what's specified.
So I think it's kind of
Oh, okay.
acceptable as written, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what the comment was, but what's actually written there, I think was the intent of the language to say that we will maintain the documentation for 6 years.
right, legal acknowledges that's acceptable.
Then moving down, the word accept is acceptable.
What's? She just asked a question for me. What is the procedure for the accepted services and positions?
Yes,
Yeah, so she didn't answer our question, she just
yes.
asked a follow-up question.
What is the procedure?
Right.
I'm gonna answer with a question. Does board policy say that, well, that legal services, internal and external auditors, treasurer and district clerk are appointed by the board without the recommendation of the superintendent?
I think everything is with the recommendation.
Well-
I would say that legal
Yeah.
services, the treasurer, the district clerk,
Auditors.
those are board
Yeah,
appointed
right.
positions.
Right.
So they are yours. You can make the argument that the internal and external are also your appointed positions. I wouldn't disagree with that, so I think it's kind of open to interpretation. The procedure would be, there would be an RFP. The administration would evaluate it and of course forward the score sheets, just like what we did with the architects, which should be on the next agenda, where there was board involvement in the selection process, because the architect is a direct appointment of the board.
Okay. Yeah, so this is just asking if we're leaving the word except from there.
Right,
Yes,
So I would think that it does belong in there. Leave it as written.
so we added it from.
Oh, we
the
added
last- I'm sorry, so
Okay.
it's not clear. I have to highlight it, whatever the next time, but we added it from the last meeting, except for legal services, internal and external auditors.
you know, there are some districts that include the cabinet and the superintendent's recommendation to the board. Sometimes they participate in the interviews for the auditors, for the legal, for the treasurer, for the district clerk. So it's really the purview of the board. If the board wants that to be independent of the superintendent, then the word accept
Should stay.
should stay.
But I would also add architect now that we're thinking about that, because it is the board's architect.
We'll reword it that it's optional to do that independent from the superintendent.
I think it would be appropriate.
Yeah.
The board can decide whether they'd like to or not. And or designate, because many times the business official is pulled in for the architect or the auditors.
In practicality, it's done, the board has direct involvement, and you'll, and again, I'm reminding you, trustee investment was involved directly with the evaluation of the architect. And we all scored it, and we all agreed, and that recommendation will be coming forth to the board, so I don't have any problem with the word accept or in cooperation with. Again, it's a board kind of a discussion. We can,
In cooperation with.
and then we
Be
can
acceptable.
put it up again for another reading and see if that's okay with
Yeah.
that. So in cooperation with,
Yeah,
Cameron?
I don't think so.
Okay, where would that go? At very beginning,
serves would be best suited the district to the Board of Education for its approval.
Judicial board and
They would
supervisor.
have be added at the end for legal services, internal, external, treasurer, district clerk, architect in cooperation with the administration.
Who said that?
And then we'll see if they want to edit that at the next meeting.
am I leaving except in?
Take it.
If we leave except for legal services, and then at the end, which may be in cooperation with
Yes,
central administration.
Yes,
okay. So directly below that, this was kind of what I was alluding to earlier, that the assistant superintendent for finance and designee shall send an inquiry to any entities that did not respond or submit an RFP. The practicality of that is sort of what we were talking about, like who didn't submit? So who I mean, I think the intention is anybody who picked up and requested the RFP, but then subsequently didn't respond, or you asked me to inquire with them.
That was a request of the board, last time around. Yes, to inquire of those as to why they did not apply.
So I think the language would say should send an inquiry to entities that requested the RFP but did not submit.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
This way I'm not sending to every CPA firm in the world.
yeah, 'cause I'm not too familiar with that part of the RFP process, so.
When we advertise, companies will request the RFP and we'll send it out to them.
Okay,
Sometimes they all don't respond because they look at it and they, you know, so this policy will require me to reach out to them and say, okay, well, you picked up an RFP, we emailed it to you. And I ask, how come you didn't respond?
okay,
I think that's the intention.
yeah, because obviously you can't reach out to everybody.
And there will be some people who look at it on the website and say, I'm not applying for this, and how do you know who they
I
are?
don't know who they are.
Unless you somehow collect their information when they look at it, or before, and that might be perceived as limiting. You have to give your information if you wanna look at the RFP.
Yeah,
So I think this should say, send an inquiry to any entities that requested the RFP but did not respond. That's what we're saying there, Amber.
Thank you.
And down at the bottom, and we add reference to section 103. I mean, this is really dealing with RFPs, whereas section 103 is dealing with bidding. I think we see that as two different areas of law.
Mhm.
So I think we deem that as not applicable.
I agree.
Like, do I delete the comment so it doesn't go to the board?
Or.
RFPs are different than competitive bidding. Competitive bidding is lowest responsible bidder, advertising in the newspaper, think like construction. Whereas RFPs, it's something we're developing some criteria, not necessarily advertising. There's some judgment in terms of who we would select. It's not always based on price, so I don't see referencing section 103 as applicable. Probably doesn't hurt to put it there, but it's just confusing because section 103 is not applicable to RFPs.
okay. Yeah, I mean, if it's not, it doesn't make sense there, then. It's not adds confusion.
Thank you. 6110,
6110 is budget planning. I think we added here in red some of the language, superintendent may seek advice and suggestions from the Board of Ed, so we added that. Taking into account statutory limits of tax levies and voter override, that language was added. And certain areas of educational that were not applicable were also struck at the bottom, so this was basic housekeeping. 61R, 6110, I'm sorry, you have something?
No, I don't have any.
6110Rs is still an extension of the same policy, so the tax set limit for the upcoming year, possibility of overriding the limit, it's just kind of repeating the same language.
I don't have any changes.
6120 is budget hearing. The recommendation is to strike the word week. At amityvilleschools.org for the website. And then at the board's discretion, you may modify the proposed budget subsequent to the annual hearing, but no less than 14 days. That's just restating the law that you still have a certain amount of time where the budget can be altered prior to it going out for vote.
Okay,
If we're striking the word week, then probably remove the parentheses also. On each day other than a Saturday, Sunday, or holiday. Style question.
Is it again?
Sure, and it says on each day, and then in parentheses, other than Saturday, Sunday, or holiday. It almost seems like by removing the word week, then the parentheses should disappear too. I guess that's a style thing though.
I'll default to the educators in the room that are better at grammar than I am.
that's sufficient. Good?
Your budget,
We're removing the parentheses? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can.
budget transfer policy remains exactly as it is now. There's no recommended changes.
But is this not required? Is that why the X is about, or the X is?
I'm not sure where that X with the line through it is there. I don't actually, but I don't think that there's any legal requirement to have a budget transfer policy. It's commonplace in every school district I'm aware of, so we have it. But also, I don't think that the commissioner requires a budget transfer policy.
Okay.
As strangely as that might sound.
So it's either local or notice, so the X should be next to one of the other two.
Yeah, either way, I mean, this is your policy as it stands now, where we report every budget transfer to the board as an information item. Certain policies require, certain transfers require board approval. Those would be the ones that exceed 100,000 in payroll codes and $10,000 in non-payroll codes. That is the current policy, so nothing here has changed.
Okay. This as far as the required local or notice, we should. Mark off one of them. I don't really know what the difference is between local and notice.
I'm not sure.
I'll figure it out,
This is
that's okay.
Yeah, as long as we just mark one of them, so we know that it's not required.
Mhm.
Okay.
That concludes
That's me.
the 6,000 series. Policy 1511.
I don't think I have a copy.
I don't see that in Maria, sorry.
So it was handed out last time, but I made copies again, in case.
Sure. Policy 1511, thank you, advertising in the schools. There was a consultation regarding advertisement in schools. And the district was reminded that for-profit organizations should not advertise in the schools. And so we wanted us to take another look at the policy. And we have here sample policy 1511. Now, Anne Marie, this is the NISBA sample policy, not our policy. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, and the next one is student gifts and solicitations, sample 5660. But we do have a student gift policy. Correct?
Yeah. I think we've heard what you're saying.
Yes.
So in the agenda, I asked for the ones that you had requested and they gave me, their numbering was different. So
Okay.
they gave me the 1511 instead of the number 3283. Which was soliciting advertising in the schools. And we requested the next one, 1314, that they gave me 5660. For gifts and solicitation.
So it's the same group policies, just different
That's what-
numbers?
Yeah, that's what. They're saying. Great.
I have noticed not most of the district will follow the same or similar numbering, but not all of them.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking over 1511 right now.
Yeah, so 1511, it was pretty much about the canvassing. Solicitations, selling items, many of the flyers that we were receiving. Were paid for services. It says here the superintendent is authorized to issue a list of suggested vendors. To meet district prescribed standards for photographs, musical instruments. While allowing parents to make their own arrangements on any terms they wish. where the arrangement does not involve the use of school personnel. A commercial photographer who is taking school photographs on school premises for a school purpose may advise students by means of a card, brochure, or other appropriate device that copies may be purchased directly from the photographer. The solicitation of orders for and the sale of class rings, if permissible, if authorized by the Board of Ed, if all prospective vendors are given full and equal opportunity to compete, and the students are fully involved in the promotion and sale of the rings. The superintendent is granted the authority to approve activities in cooperation with any individual or organization which are of general public interest and which promote the education or other best interests of the students. Exhibitions in schools of any books, articles, apparatus, films, or other educational material shall be judged on the basis of their actual educational values. In case of colleges, universities, and service agencies, corporations, businesses, and public service agencies, it is the policy of the board that access to schools shall be encouraged to bring career and occupational information to students. The superintendent shall ensure that such activities are carefully monitored to restrict any commercial advertising. Contracts which purport to authorize private individuals or corporations to promote the sale of products and services through commercial advertisements aimed at public school students are expressly prohibited. Nothing in this policy shall be construed to limit the authority of the board under law to authorize the broadcast of high school games and other events by radio and TV stations, even when the broadcast is commercially sponsored.
So going back to the second paragraph, the superintendent is authorized to issue a list of suggested vendors to meet district prescribed standards. With that, so that's who we would be getting photographs and musical instruments from, or is that if there's a company that's trying to advertise those things?
So if there's canvassing, soliciting of funds, or selling of any items by an outside agency shall not be permitted. School personnel may not participate during school hours or on school grounds in the solicitation of orders, the distribution of advertising materials, or the collection of charges. The superintendent is authorized to issue a list of suggested vendors. So for example, Jostens, who does the Jones,
I remember a lot of those things are run through student activities,
Life Touch.
so that's a different, they're being held to a different set of rules than the district itself, because those are viewed differently under law, so. The class rings and the yearbook, you do see that kind of advertising and stuff going home because it's predominantly done through student activities. What this is referring to, I think, are the rare cases where the board, the district administration would be doing this, which is pretty rare given state law for us to do that, but student activities has a lot more leeway to do these things, so it's not like you're not going to see class rings and yearbooks and that kind of advertising going home, as long as it's coming from the clubs and not the administration and the board, they have a lot more leeway.
So it'd just be like student council collecting a charge for the dance to pay for a DJ.
Yes,
Okay,
that would generally be permissible because they're allowed to fundraise and operate as a makeshift for-profit type of business. That's the design of it, yeah.
okay,
We couldn't do that as the administration, but student activities could.
okay.
So is there a policy that allows student activities to do this, or is that?
Student activity handbook, which is published by SCD, has that rule book expressly stated out, and they have a lot more leeway as students to do this kind of fundraising and business type of activity. I'm not sure if we'd ever have a list of approved businesses that the board, that to me is pretty rare.
So if someone were to raise it with you, I'm sorry.
Go
Do
ahead.
you want to raise it, do we want to put in here somewhere that student activities do not fall under this because they are governed by a separate section of law or something? Do we just want to reference? Because I'm in my mind, not knowing what you know, Rich, putting down, well, what about yearbook, ads in school papers, ads in the yearbook, ads in the playbills,
For student activities.
yeah, so if there were something in here that referenced the fact that student activities are not limited by this, I don't know what you wanna say.
Or we can
I
make
think it's
that
there,
kind of
it's in-
difference at the bottom for. To kind
I
of
think we
point
could
in
put
that
it-
direction.
I think we could put it there, and I'll consult with council,
was
again,
gonna
just to
say,
make sure
yeah.
we're buttoned up, but student activities has so much
Wide
more
open.
leeway to do
Yeah.
these things.
Yeah.
Than we do that, I can't think of a circumstance where this would apply to the board and the administration.
Okay.
Sorry, I can't think of it, no, but. You know, I'll talk it over with council to say, do we need to add something here about that student activities? And their authority to do these sort of things under law, and then we'll talk about it again.
'Cause I know I've been looking at. I couldn't give an exact example, or I'm looking at something and I would think that whatever title of the policy is where I should be getting the information, meanwhile, it's titled something else in a different section
Yeah.
where. That kind of a reference would make sense. But, yeah, I didn't have anything else. To add to that.
Okay,
It's right here, it's
56
5660, there it is.
Oh, there you go,
explains it.
excuse me, David. Sound pretty smart also.
Only those organizations granted approval by the Board of Ed shall have permission to solicit donations and contributions from students. All fundraising activities must be voluntary and in accordance with the rules of the Regents and the State Department guidelines relating to solicitation of charitable donations from children. No direct solicitation of students is permitted during school hours. So the following constitute permissible indirect forms of solicitation, and the board has the authority to determine which, if any, forms it will allow. The sale of tickets to a social, musical, or athletic event where a portion of the funds go to charitable purpose. The recruitment of students during school hours to participate in fundraising activities to be conducted off school premises or when school is not in session. School personnel are permitted to hang posters or distribute flyers notifying students of these activities. However, school personnel may not act as a conduit and collect funds from students on behalf of a charity for which they recruited. And the placement of a bin or collection box in a hallway or other common area for the voluntary donation of food, clothing, or money.
Joke,
I was wondering.
we're not doing that anymore.
So when gifts, students are discouraged from presenting the school staff with elaborate gifts. Spontaneous, inexpensive gifts will be allowed when reasonable to express gratitude. Letters of appreciation are always welcome. Now, we did just approve student gifts, I believe, a couple of months ago. You remember us reviewing this?
Yes.
So if we can, Anne Marie, maybe compare this and our number might be different. Because we normally, with the booster club, we give them a copy of gift solicitations and relationship with booster clubs.
Would that be gifts from the public?
Yes. What number is that?
That is 1800.
1800. So we didn't have one that says student gifts and solicitations.
You have gifts and grants.
Okay. So if we want to consider the student gifts and solicitations, because students are being solicited to participate in various activities. And then 1,000, Anne Marie, we're good to move on to that?
No, we got lost.
Okay,
So I'm comparing it to 1800 or no?
Well, there's two other policies that we have that refer to gifts. It's 1800 and 6255 is gifts and grants.
Okay. I'm gonna compare the both to make sure if it's covered, then we don't need this separate policy.
Yes. Okay,
In January, we worked on 5660. I'm not sure what the status is.
we worked on 5660.
It's in the minutes.
And what's it titled? Student gifts and solicitation?
Yes,
And so we do have a 5660.
I don't know if we finalized it, but we were.
Okay, so Anne Marie, can you check to see our 5660?
We don't have 5660 on board docs.
Okay. Now, the community relations goals. It was. Yeah. Yes, sounds fine.
If the business end is good.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Yep.
Did someone, let's request the community relations goals?
Sorry, defense.
Or maybe that,
No,
Anne Marie, did this one go along with the booster?
They think so, that's what we want.
Maybe that went along with the booster.
well. Number 4. Encourage contributions from the Amityville Parent Teacher Council, so. That would at least need to be updated.
PTA.
Yes. PTA or PTSA, you can make both.
So number 4 would be contributions from the Amityville PTA and R PTSA.
Shall we raise those initials or spell it out?
Parent Teacher Students Association.
Teacher. Student association. And the other one is PTA. A on,
PTA, Parent Teacher Association. And PTSA, Parent Teacher Student Association.
So is the Parent Teacher Council gone? Or is that?
Yes.
That's
Replaced.
dissolved.
So in terms of the relationship, the booster organizations, this 1222 is our policy. And it was referenced with 1,800 gifts from the public. So that's why we were looking at 5660. 5660.
So would it be too much information to kind of tie that together and? Note, like, where to look for the booster organization?
If we're gonna utilize
Yeah.
5660, we can cross-reference it here.
Yeah.
5660. We could leave gifts from the public as is, since we just looked at that one, and add student gifts and solicitations, if everyone's okay with NISBA's policy, or if we wanna cross-reference it to the one that we previously looked at and see if there are any differences there.
Okay.
so in the 1,000 community relations, I'm referencing 5660 if we approve it.
Yes. So the Booster Club just basically talks about if they're interested in organizing a booster club to support a specific school program. such as sports or fine arts and music, or then they need to meet with the superintendent, get approval of facilities use. They need to follow the procedures in the public use of facilities. And to produce a calendar of their events for the year. And then I have to share with them the district's terms and conditions for us to accept such gifts. So that's why students' gifts and solicitations and gifts from the public would be applicable. And then seek the board's official approval before accepting or publicly announcing any contributions.
So how does it fall in, because if they're assisting in an event that they're not, that the organization is not running,
Mhm.
then where does that fall in line, whereas with communication with the administration?
So it depends on who they're assisting, is it a principal, the athletic director? So if they're working with the athletic director, they need to organize who's going to have which role. And it should be communicated, and the procedure for the donation has to be made clear and plain. That, the money won't go directly to a student or for a function for a student. That the funds have to come to the board for approval and then utilized for the task for which they're aiming. Can I clear that up anymore? Got it? Yeah.
What about when members of those organizations are volunteering within the schools? Or even if it's just outside the school on school property,
Mhm.
does that need to be checked in any way or reported?
So, with their volunteering on school grounds for an event,
Yeah,
okay. So once you approve that booster club, I mean, the board maintains the right to say that we would like to have background checks, fingerprints done on those who will be working in the school. The board would have that right.
which I understand that's difficult to navigate, because you might only have a
Right.
few people that are regularly involved in those
Yeah,
organizations,
so it's making
where
it
you,
go.
right,
Yeah.
and you gotta. Grab who you can to help you.
Yeah.
But in those circumstances, does the district? Like, does the. Say like the athletic supervisors, are they aware? Of like being around those members. While they're operating on school grounds to kind of supervise that they're not. One-on-one with students. Or anything like that.
Well, I think everyone could be alert, but it really wouldn't be their responsibility.
And I'm not
I
saying
know
it
what
would
you're
just be that, like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying who would be the point person for it, but really just to make sure that. Whoever's volunteering on school grounds who's
Mhm.
acting appropriately, because I. Understand, even as somebody who's volunteering in those capacities where you could very easily be left alone with a student. And not only do you not want to put a volunteer in a position where they feel. Vulnerable that they could be accused of something, but protect
Mhm.
mainly the student themselves.
So there's the school volunteer policy, which we could cross-reference, right? With that.
We could, we just adopted that not too long ago.
But that we would have to revisit, because I know there were some exceptions to that policy as well.
With the application, with the frequency.
What I remember, there was. Some organizations that were. They were not required. Yeah, so I know that says no volunteer shall be permitted to have unsupervised direct contact with students.
And what's the number of that policy?
4532.
4532.
Yes.
Anne Marie, that would be a possible cross-reference to 1222. School volunteer policy 4532. And we can share that with legal to see how that can collaborate effectively with the intent of support.
So I was gonna possible reference 4532 with
1222. Which is the booster organization.
yes, do you want me to check with them?
Yes, please, that would be great. Are there any others that want to be reviewed tonight?
Number 11 and number 12. And number 13. Yeah.
If I had the opportunity to review. I think 42 we did last time.
Oh, that was the one that Megan was going to add a paragraph to, I don't think. She
Okay, well, I guess
will just
since
table
she's
it.
not, yeah. Well,
And the minutes policy, I asked NISBA for their policy. Just to compare it to the proposed change and what we currently have. And then I also emailed on a listserv to the district clerks to ask them. What's the typical turnaround time? And most of them were 10 days to 2 weeks from the meeting, or actually. 2 weeks before the next meeting. One day was not any of the answers I got, so the minimum was 4 days. But a full-time person, so I
Okay.
don't think 1 day is practical, but
I would have
You
to
don't
agree
have
with that, especially considering the amount of information going through these meetings.
right.
And considering we have a part-time employee handling it.
Right.
Hey,
I also asked them how long their average meetings were, and it was anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half. 2 hours was on the outside, so figuring how many hours it is to go through and 8 minutes from it.
And what do we average, 3 to 4 hours of public session?
Pretty much about 30.
I suggest we table this one.
Mm-hmm.
13. 4321.
Yes.
I didn't speak to Gersie about this.
No, do you want to table that one for further review? Okay. And Anne Marie with number 3, there were some possible policy committee meeting dates. You want to go over those?
Yeah, so May 18th, the room is already reserved for another organization starting at 6:30. So if he's going to be in 29. Another place from like 2:30 or comments.
Another location would be upstairs, and that's not really conducive if we have a community member join in.
Probably not. Unless we wanna go to the art room. Maybe the art room at the park. Or, do we wanna do that and keep the date, or do we wanna change the date?
You said May 18th?
May 18th. That's a Monday?
Yes. But I have to. It's not a typical day for. Board of Ed meetings, if we need to clear the. Facilities. If it's available.
We could check with, Josie and,
Okay.
yeah, and Al, of course,
Okay.
but it should be on that calendar. Everyone okay with keeping May 18th?
Yeah, I guess we can keep it
Okay,
and just relocate.
alright. Any other concerns on the meeting dates?
No. Well, one of them was the first day back from February 3.
So
And then that's-
23rd.
Right,
For Monday?
And is there already health and safety committee? Right before that? I don't know what it's like coming back for you guys the day after vacation.
Okay.
So,
Are we okay with going from January to March, or do we wanna find there's a 1 week break in February, right?
Yes,
And then there's a 1 day break, is there another break? No, that's the only break, the 1 week.
then it's not till April. Maybe the thing to do would be to not have the meeting on the 23rd and see if there was a date a week earlier for the March meeting, so there's not quite so much time in between that but so it's still one fewer meeting and yet still in a timely way.
or just see if we can reschedule to the 24th. Yep, Tuesday,
There's CBAC on Tuesday,
Yeah.
okay.
there's nothing on Wednesday.
25th?
Or Thursday.
Wednesday, the 25th was clear. Like there's a program at Park on the 26th at night.
I don't know what time would be.
6:30. So with the 25th of February,
Believe I'm available.
Anne Marie, for Wednesday,
yes, so I'll check with Josie.
okay. To be confirmed, I'll put,
Mhm.
right?
I'm gonna check with the other committee members also.
Yes. Okay. Sounds good. And then, just a minute, if you're good,
Let's just summarize what you putting any of these up for a reading at the next meeting. I believe the 6,000s,
yes,
putting all those up.
and that would be Anne Marie for the 11/19 meeting. Combined session,
The 12th is just budget,
yeah,
okay.
okay.
Would that be first or first and final?
Did we read any of these at the last meeting?
I don't think so,
No.
so it'll be twisted first reading,
We did some in here, is that kind of sparse, if it's a policy committee meeting? Oh, okay.
No, just at the general meetings.
So we mark it as first,
Yeah, I mean, we could always make it final reading.
if they decide.
Yeah.
to, yeah.
You don't wanna change it, just.
So are those the only ones we wanna bring for the agenda?
So she just adding references on the other ones, right? Well,
Well, for
Dan
15,
Maria is gonna
Mhm.
review 5660 to, well, see if it mirrored 1800 or 6255.
Mhm. And Snyder was gonna follow up with legal on 1511. Community relations looked fine,
Yeah, it's just that one update on number 4.
yes.
If we approve. We're at 1,000 community relations,
Yes.
so if we approve 5660, that gets added. As a reference. At the bottom.
Okay,
So if I. Compare that and get that information out before the next. Board event, does it have to wait for the policy?
I don't think so, we could bring it, and it can just be a first reading, which will probably entail discussion.
Yeah.
And then we'll wait on 4321. To bring that back to the policy meeting on November 24th. And are we in agreement to waiting on 2342
Yes.
and 2360?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, what about 1222?
we want to bring that for a first read along with 1000?
We didn't make any changes to that, did we?
And the only thing was, we 1222 is to ask Liz or 3532 can be as a reference.
Yeah,
And then we should probably add a volunteer policy as a reference also.
yeah, 4532. To 1222.
I think that's what I said. 4532.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and then the meetings would stay the same with the exception of February 23rd. You'll confirm with the other policy members. Check to see if the room is available, 225. And then we'll keep the May 18th with the relocation to the art room in Paynes if available.
Mhm.
Can I ask that we review a policy next time we meet, 4325 on AIS. So part of our RECOFS grant requires us to look at the sustainability of practices to address learning loss, and that includes import policy. So if we could look at that and see where we could insert information about addressing learning loss.
And we would also like to look at the AI regulation. I don't know the number, Anne Marie, sorry. It would be the AI regulation for the approved policy.
I think that. Rich Schneider has an appointment with Curcio to discuss it more of the 6000 series. So
Oh, okay,
if that. Happens, then I'll add that to the policy agenda.
okay. Great.
Well, do we have artificial intelligence policy that you want to add regulation?
Yes, and what's that number?
8636.
8636. Okay, thanks.
All right, now wrap it up. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend.
We're ending it.
Ending at 7:25 PM.
Oh, great.